My name is Abdul Abrani. I'm the Associate Dean here at the Hale College of Business, and I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of amazing students. One thing that I'm really proud of is our alumni and their willingness to give back. Today's discussion is going to be about research. A lot of our students, we have about 20 students that are going through the research lab right now. They've trusted us that this is going to be great for their life after NKU. And we want to tell the story of how do you leverage research for your professional career? Because there's this assumption that research is only applicable if you want to go to grad school. I disagree. Everybody benefits from it. And we have some panelists. I already cried once today. So if I cry again, no, it's because the individuals that are up here have influenced my career greatly. I owe a lot to them. And the relationship that we have is a testament of the power of education and continuous improvement. So I'll get started today. And oh, by the way, everything's being recorded over here. If you have a question, I have the only mobile microphone. I'll come to you if you want to raise your hand to ask a question. I have a set of questions to walk us through, but I want this to be engaging and for you all to participate as well. So thank you for being here. Let me introduce our panelists. We'll start by when they graduated. All right. So the first, I have no right to talk about age. So our first panelist is Matt Fry. Matt Fry is works for government affairs for Kentucky American Water. That's his day job right now, but his impact on the Hale College of Business and the work that we do is Matt is actually technically the first ever research fellow. So everything that we have built on top of that really started through that experience with Matt. And he's also part of the group of students, the Econ club at that time, that started the first Econ games ever. And now the Econ games has grown to engage 30 universities, 300 students on an annual basis. And I want you all to take a moment and be proud of that. This is an economic education or business innovation that is impacting students across the world and across the country that started here at Hale because students had the audacity to say, we want to do more. So that's Matt Fry. We'll move on to Brooklyn Stevens. She's a senior operation consultant. Most of you might know her from taking her class. Yes, she teaches here as an adjunct professor, Eco 309, which is data storytelling. And it's helped many of us learn how to tell better stories when it comes to data. Brooklyn was a student here when we developed the class. She was the first student, one of the first students to take the class, and has helped me reshape it, and now has taken full ownership of it and continues to do an amazing job. She is also the 2021 Best Undergraduate Paper winner at the Kentucky Economic Association. Next up is Aro Rajauna. He's a business analyst at Fifth Third Bank, where he leverages his coding skills. Aro was committed to developing his coding skills as a research fellow, so he utilizes that now on a daily basis. One thing about Aro that you all need to know is Aro took the opportunities that were presented to him here at the Hale College of Business, and after graduation, he went to be a research assistant at a small school called Princeton. So next up is Becca Wilson. She's a senior consultant at Last Mile Investment. While she was here at the Hale College of Business, she helped us work on a research consulting grant that brought to the college $150,000. As a student over here, she impacted the bottom line for the Hale College of Business and actually helped us provide more resources for everybody at the college through her research skills and her attention to detail. The other thing that Becca has been so gracious with is her experience at the Econ Games was impactful to her, to everybody around her. But when she did leave to corporate, one of the things that she wanted to do was bring the Econ Games back to Cincinnati. And last year was a successful year where she was the lead data sponsor through 3CDC at that time, and really changed the lives of so many of our students that participated. But most importantly, she showed people that came to visit the Northern Kentucky, Cincinnati metro area how great of a place this place is to live and to work. So that's Becca Wilson. Next up is Grace McCon. She is recently promoted to ERM analyst at Fifth Third Bank. She joined Fifth Third as part of their leadership development program, which is a great program. I highly recommend that you look at it. You could talk to Grace after this to learn more about it. She was a fellow here at the college, worked as well with us on the consulting job and actually other consulting gigs through the marketing department. She is also a winner of the Kentucky Economic Association Best Undergraduate Paper Award for the year 2023. That I could go on and talk about them forever. Could you give them, please, a round of applause and welcome them? So the way we're going to do this is I'm going to throw out a question. Whoever gets to it first, compete, answer it. I'll try to direct you. So I want to start simple. I just gave you an introduction. How did it feel to hear those introductions? Did you think as a first-year student here at the Hale College of Business that one day you'd be spoken about in that way? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah. So first off, it's really good to be here. It's always really fun to come back on campus. I've lived in a couple of places over the past, since I've graduated from NKU, and it's always really fun to come back to campus. I was talking with Janet Hara before this, and I just feel like so much has changed in a positive way. There's a lot of excitement. With that in mind, I came to NKU in 2015 and really wasn't sure what I wanted to do with my college experience. That's where an econ major came to mind, is that it provides a lot of choice, and that was really exciting to me. I knew that when I came here, I just wanted to do something. I didn't know what that was necessarily, but I met a lot of people. One of those people being Dr. A, and they saw that passion, and they helped me locate it, helped me put some direction to it. And along the way, met some other people and got to do a lot of really exciting things. And so I think that's just, I never saw myself doing what I did when I came to NKU, but it was a place where I knew I could meet a lot of people who had a vision. They didn't know what it was either, but they wanted to do something and wanted to make an impact.
Thank you, Matt. Grace, what about you?
Yeah, similar to Matt, when I first was, entering my college experience, I had very little to no idea of what I wanted to do. I was toying around with being an English major because really I knew I loved to write. But really what set off my whole college trajectory was walking into Econ Club one day, because it was always a club on campus that was, open door policy, come in, you don't have to be an econ major. So I went into that club and I just immediately knew I had kind of found the crowd that I wanted to be in. And so I pursued economics as a degree as well as marketing. And that just saying yes to that one econ club opened so many doors for me, because I got to TA for some of Dr. A and Brooklyn's classes, obviously do the fellows program, some research opportunities with the marketing department. So no, I didn't anticipate ending up here when I first started college, but I'm so glad that I did, and am very grateful for this community we've built and then all the opportunities that I was able to have during my experience.
Professor Stevens, when you started as a student here, did you ever think you'd be teaching a class here?
No. And funny enough, I have a lot of educators in my family, and I always thought I will never, ever do that. So it's been a journey, to say the least. But when I first started here at NKU, I was dead set on going to law school. And I had an advisor here who's still here tell me, hey, you might want to pair economics with your pre-law minor, because people that do economics tend to score really well on the LSAT if you want to get into law school. And I said, that sounds great. I don't really know what I want to do, so I'll just go with that. I ended up truly enjoying my econ classes so much more than I ever thought I would. It opened up just a whole new perspective of the world and life for me. And my pre-law minor gave me a lot of other skills that I use today in the corporate world, but it ended up not being my passion. So did not go to law school, decided to get my MBA instead. But I do just want to say, you are in the room today for a reason. I think similar to Grace, I kind of stumbled into this path, but you have the opportunity to stay in the room or to continue down the path. And I'm so grateful that I did that. And that's what has led to these doors being opened, like teaching. And it's been such a fulfilling experience. And to be able to come back and talk to you all, I think just want to say you all are ahead of the game. You're already here. You're sitting in this room. You have this community that has grown. When I was here and we revived the Econ Club after COVID, there was 3 of us. So it's just so rewarding to see so many people filling out this room today. So you're here for a reason.
Thank you. Thank you. Aro, you bring an international student perspective. Can you tell me what your experience was?
Right. So I came to the US in 2019. I'm originally from Madagascar. I grew up in West Africa all my life. And I've always been interested in understanding why people are poor in general. So I came to college knowing that I wanted to do economics, but I didn't really know what a student coming to the US can do besides going to classes. So in my second year, I went to Dr. A's office and I said, "Hi, my name is Aro, and I want to do more than going to classes." And Dr. A introduced me to research, which led me to being part of the Fellows Program. And it has opened a lot of doors so far.
Thank you. Thank you, Aro. Becca, you're the only accounting major here. How does it feel?
I think a couple years ago that would have made me very, very nervous. Now I've kind of come into myself a little bit, and I appreciate that I'm able to represent a very great major by being up here and kind of show you all that accountants can do a lot more than just accounting. So if you're an accounting major, you belong here for sure.
You do. So you started college 2019.
I did, yeah.
First year Becca versus today. What was your growth path?
Ooh, not linear. Whenever I first got here, I was in love with accounting. I went to an accounting base camp in between my junior and senior year of high school. I was an accounting nerd. Loved it. I thought I would be doing something like this today. I was kind of, and then of course, just like anybody whose head is a little big, got popped. That was deflated for sure. I ran into let's say I fell out of love with accounting for a bit. I actually resented it for a while. And through this program, by taking a bit of a detour, this program allowed me to take a step back, fall in love with something else, which has allowed me to kind of come back to that major and kind of gotten back to where I really do have love and appreciation for my major again, and I'm passionate about it again, and forever grateful for you bringing me into this so that I could find my love for that again. Yeah.
The pleasure is mine. So we have an audience of students, faculty members, community members. Thank you all for being here. A lot of our students, as I said, trusted us that research is valuable, and I appreciate that trust. Is there something in your career, a moment that you have recently gone through where you're like, oh, I'm prepared to take this on because of what I've learned? Professor Stevens, I'll start with you.
Yeah, something that immediately came to mind. I'm going to explain a little bit about what I do in my daily job. So to give you some context, my title is very vague, senior operation consultant. What does that really mean? I know as a student, one of the biggest things that was a struggle for me is I didn't really understand what people did in their daily jobs. Like, what was their daily life like? What did they work on? You see these random titles like business analyst, and we're like, what does that mean? You analyze something, but I don't know what it is. So in my job, I help any technology that we're implementing at my company. I help to just make sure that that technology is what we need. So I work a lot with business analysts, with people that are a lot more technical than I am, but that has an element of data with it. So I've actually been in a lot of meetings recently in my career over the past like 6-ish months where we're building something new and we have to decide what data we want to collect. And I had a moment in a meeting this week actually where we were looking at SQL queries, we were looking at code, we were looking at data. And I just had this moment of I would not have been able to do this and participate in this conversation and be effective at my job if I had not taken the leap to be a research fellow and done research in undergrad. Even though that was years ago, even though I only worked with Stata code, I still am able to translate that into my daily job now and be so much more effective. I would never have been able to really do that if I wasn't a part of this program. So that's something that was like a realization to me of these skills that I was building at the time. I had no idea how those would affect my life now and really propel me in my career so much quicker than I ever could have expected.
Matt, you have a very different job duty. How do you leverage your experience in research for your job? And what is your job?
So, yeah, that's a good question. And I think Brooklyn answered that well leading off with that. So I do government affairs. Slimy way to describe that, as you may remember, is I'm a lobbyist. So I think that lobbyists get bad rap because there's plenty of good ones out there. And so what I do on a day-to-day basis is that I interface with elected officials. So whether they be from the local level, like a mayor, a magistrate, or a judge executive, all the way to state representatives or state senators that represent you in Frankfurt, also including the executive branch of government too. And it's just all about work for a water company. So how can we make it easier to invest in water and wastewater in Kentucky? It's a general way to do it. That's what I advocate for. And how does that connect with a background in research? And I think that in this world that we're in with all these different changes coming into mind, you can learn a lot of technical skills in whatever major you do, but you can learn those technical skills much more easier than ever before. The thing that is harder to develop in the short term, and the same span you can learn those technical skills, is critical thinking. That's exactly what research does. You have a hypothesis that you want to very clearly define, that you want it to be testable. To be able to sit down and ask a question, it's like, I don't understand this finance principle. I don't understand how we get from A to B in this finance principle with how rate making in water investment works. Well, how do I figure out how that coming from a critical thinking background that was developed by working in research allowed me to do that. Allows you to ask constructive questions, allows you to learn things a lot quicker. And I think working in research allows you to develop that critical thinking that is the hardest skill of any technical skill to.
Thank you, Matt. Becca, how do you leverage it in accounting?
Yeah, I have a little anecdote actually from this week that I'll share. So I currently work for Last Mile Investments. If you haven't heard of us, we are a retail real estate company right across the river, but we're national. So we buy up a lot of, I probably shouldn't use this word, but strip malls, kind of like. We call them retail shopping centers, but essentially they're, outside strip malls and they're unanchored, so no big grocery stores usually. So I'm in real estate, and we're a small company. We're fairly new. We were born in 2020, and we're growing. We're growing a lot. We're growing quickly. What you realize whenever you're growing, you're a small company and you don't have a lot of people, is that every single person that I have met at this company, which met all of them, there's 37 of us, they have said to me at one point in time, I don't know what I'm doing. Or they'll be asked something, hey, can I get your expertise on this? And they will say, actually, I don't really have much, never done this before, but I can tell you what I think. And this past week, there was a request that came across my desk, and it was about loans. And I had no idea what this was asking me. I was very nervous to provide expertise on this. I don't have expertise. What if I'm wrong? And it was going to go up to our sort of parent company, which is a big deal. That's a big deal. They've invested a lot of money in us. This needs to be a correct answer. And you know what I did? Went to ChatGPT and I looked this up and I educated myself for a second. And the important thing here, and the way this ties back to research, there's two items. One, in research, what I learned, and I think what you all will learn, is that the biggest component is understanding what you don't know. If you don't know what you don't know, then how can you solve your problem? How can you identify your problem? So immediately in that situation at work, I had to admit, I do not know this. And also I have to put in a really good prompt into ChatGPT to make sure that I get the correct answer that I'm looking for. So I had to really identify what it was that I didn't understand, what it was that I didn't know. And then I had to start identifying a solution, kind of like working through what ChatGPT was giving me for the good stuff, then reading a lot of loan documents, a lot of legal language, trying to figure that out and put it out there. But research taught me how to be comfortable with the fact that, A, I don't know what this is really asking me. I don't know what the topic is, but then also turning around, giving me the confidence to do the research, figure out what the answer is, and then present it confidently. And then whenever I get questions back, especially in economics, you will also always get questions back, and then be confident answering and backing up your response.
I want to shift to, how do you document all of these experiences on your resume, and how do you communicate them in interviews? For instance, just as an update for you all, this year we have 6 students that are going to New York. Matt, remember our trip to New York?
That's great.
We have 6 students that are actually presenting this year in New York. If you are presenting in New York, can you raise your hand, please? Higher, and be proud of it. And then our Econ Games team this year is 12 members. How many of you are here today? Raise your hand if you're going to be part of the Econ. Okay, perfect. Round of applause for them too. How do you document this on your resume, and how do you talk about it in interviews? Grace, I want to start with you.
Yeah. So normally how I approach this is whenever I'm applying for a job or looking at a role, I'll always kind of peruse the job description and just pick out, okay, what are the key words? What are like the key themes or skills that they're going to be looking for in this job? So I'll kind of like get a sense of that and then pick up on that. And then as for my experiences, I'll kind of try to tailor them or phrase them in a way that's going to make me seem like the best fit for that role based on all of those keywords and the kind of skills that they're looking for in a candidate. So for example, I'll just use the current role I'm in as an example. So I'm an ERM analyst, and ERM means Enterprise Risk Management Analyst at Fifth Third Bank. And a lot of the data that I work with isn't super technical in nature. Like our analysis, it's a mix of a lot of qualitative components and some quantitative components, but we're not really in SAS or SATA or anything like that. So for that role in specifically, I didn't really want to highlight too much of, I know how to code in Python or Stata or whatever it was, because I knew like that wasn't of utmost important for that particular role. So I focused more from a research component on the storytelling element of it, how I'm very skilled at taking that research and then telling a clear story with it, slide design, getting my message across clearly, because I knew that that was going to be more important to them for that role than the technical back end coding element of it. That's really how I do it. I just get a sense of what skills are they looking for, and then I'll kind of cherry pick different skills from my experiences I've had and really play those ones up as opposed to some others that might not be as important.
Just raise it of hands. How many of you, when you first got out to your first job interviews and you had research experience on your resume in the Econ Games, how many of you had the experience where that came up in an interview? Raise your hand. Okay. Aro, how did you communicate? What did they ask you about it?
Oh, I have a great story about this. For those who are interested in PhDs, I was interested in a PhD in economics right after graduation, but I didn't know what were the pipelines to get from NKU to those programs. And through networking, I heard of pre-docs. So pre-doc is short for predoctoral research assistantship. In general, those are 2-year programs where either top universities in the country or the Federal Reserve Bank, they hire you for 2 years and you work with economists on research programs, doing all research tasks. So analyzing data, writing, communicating results, presenting, brainstorming on ideas. So when I saw the opening for the pre-doc at Princeton University, where I worked for 2 years, I looked at the job description and it said the following. You need to have a bachelor's in economics or social science major, experience in research, experience in analyzing data, presenting findings, being able to talk about research topics. And I was like, this is exactly what we do at NKU. So it was a great fit. And that's what I made sure that I communicated on my resume and during the interviews, that I'm a great fit for this. And the great thing with those universities is that they are looking for students from universities like NKU who don't necessarily have a straight pipeline to Harvard, Stanford, Princeton, and so on. So that's pretty much how I communicated that in my applications.
Perfect. Becca, what about you?
Oh gosh, going back to the resume.
Going back to the resume, a long time ago.
So I would say this is a little bit different for accounting. Fortunately, my research was in real estate, so the topic of my paper was directly related to the area that I work in. And so I would put the title of my paper on my resume if I had the room. But really in accounting, I don't need to put that on there. That doesn't really entice the people that I'm interviewing with usually. For me, it's more about bringing it up in the interview. Usually at a bare minimum at the end of this interview, they would typically like to ask you, is there anything that you would like to highlight that we haven't talked about today? Or is there anything that you would like to add? And that's your opportunity to really shine and really highlight things that are important to you that they didn't know they should be asking about, right? And so usually I would take that time to either highlight the Econ games, or I'd take that time to highlight my paper and say that it's something that I'm proud of. And people like that. People like that you're taking ownership, you're being passionate about something. They want to see that reflected once they hire you, that you're passionate, you're taking ownership about that job that you're getting hired for. So just because it's not directly on that sheet of paper that they initially see from you doesn't mean that it can't still be extremely useful in that interview process. A lot of times it might just be a little bit more behind the scenes. At the end of the day, I'm very passionate about this. Make sure that there are no errors, typos, weird formatting in your resume. That is the first item to get you through the door. Can't tell you how many resumes here recently. We just hired someone that my boss and I were looking at. We're accountants, okay? In the accounting world, attention to detail, typo, it's getting talked about. It is getting talked about. And that can seriously be the difference. I've seen it happen. I've been in that conversation where this person didn't send a thank you note. They had a lot of typos, missed the formatting. They showed up in a quarter zip. And because of that, this person who has a little bit less experience, actually this person has no experience in real estate. Their experience is in accounting only. It's in a different industry, but they showed up in a suit. They were well spoken. Their resume was well thought out. There were no typos. They really put a lot of effort into this. They did their research. They watched our 1-hour podcast with our CEO before coming in here. That mattered over this other person who had the perfect background that we were looking for. That was more important. So make sure your resume clean, cut before you get in the door. Doesn't have to have your research paper on that, right? Then leverage it once you're in the door. Then tell them what you want them to know about you, because you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. That's where you bring it in.
Really great advice. So I really hope you heard that. No typos. Send a thank you card and learn as much about the business before you actually show up. Watch the podcast, check out their LinkedIn page, see how they advertise themselves so you can leverage it in that communication. The other thing that I heard, I don't know if you picked up, but no quarter zips, regardless of what TikTok tells you. Matt, what was your transition? How do you leverage your research experience here at the Hale College of Business for your next opportunity from here?
So when I was at NKU, a lot of financial literacy related research, and so spent between sort of freshman year all the way through senior year, I did financial literacy research. I was familiar with the data sets, the literature, the whole 9 yards, and was able to parlay that into going to George Washington University in DC to get my master's in economics. But one of the reasons I picked it over the other options that I had is because George Washington had the financial literacy research center in the world. And something that I want to touch on is when it comes to a lot of people here have already known is the person that is going to win or the person that is going to get the job at the end of the day is going to be the most passionate person. So like what Becca's talking about, like that person showing up prepared in all those different ways, that's why they got it, because they were the most passionate about it. And that is what my research experience at NKU was really passionate about financial literacy research. I was really knowledgeable about research because I had a lot of different opportunities with it between working with Dr. A, working with Janet at the Center for Economic Analysis and Development. And so when I went into those interviews, I was able to display the passion and the know-how, programming experience. I had to write literature reviews. I had all the technical background. I also was just flat out the most passionate about it. It's funny, you know, everybody's probably like heard the joke of you go online to LinkedIn, it's like, wow, this is an entry-level job that requires 5 years of experience. Well, I was the person that found a way to do that, even though that I was just graduating because I applied for that research assistant job. And so the experience I had in KU that really helped me stand out was the passion that I was able to develop from all the opportunities that I had.
I want to ask you all about how has research or the fellows program impacted your levels of confidence? Professor Stevens?
Yeah. As I was reflecting the past few days on coming here and like what my thoughts were, just reflecting on what my journey has been since being at NKU, all the different steps I've taken in my career, worked at a few different places, I was thinking about that question of like, what did the research lab, if I had to sum it up in one or two sentences, like how has it really impacted my career, my professional and personal life? And I think the thing I kept coming back to is that it's this confidence to be able to go figure something out on your own and to understand that like you might need to pull in other people. You don't have to know everything. Back to Becca's point, like you don't have to know everything, but you have to be able to have the confidence to say, I can go figure it out. And that's what I look for, like when I'm in these interviews with others, trying to hire people at Western and Southern. That's what I think of. I want this certain attitude in an individual that they're like, I will go figure it out and I will be scrappy and I will have a good attitude about it. And I want to go solve that problem. I'm so curious and I'm hungry and I'll go figure it out. And they have this like intrinsic motivation to go through the necessary steps to try to find an answer. And it's not always going to be perfect and it's going to be a journey and you're going to hit roadblocks, but being able to persevere through that and not relying on others to kind of come to you and be like, here's the answer. That's, I think, the biggest thing that the research lab and doing research in general gave me, because research is grueling. Like, I don't know if any of you have already, I'm sure a lot of you have already started your research, but sometimes like it's hard and you don't want to keep going and you don't want to do another regression, or you don't want to go find data because the data you originally found was not exactly what you wanted. Like, you don't want to go find another paper for your literature review. It's a process and it kind of stinks sometimes and you're in the middle of it. But being able to go through that process and then see how far you come in research at the end of it, where you have a finished paper and you're able to say like, I did that and I had help and I had this community that came around me and helped me write this paper. And that sense of pride about what you did, once I started experiencing that in the research lab, it was almost kind of addicting. And that's what I've taken, I think, into my career and into grad school as well. So that's like the one thing that if I have to go back to just one thing, it's the ability to go figure something out and just have intrinsic belief that I can go figure it out. I can figure out who to talk to. I can ask questions, but I will figure this out some way. So that's the biggest thing that I had from the program.
Thank you for highlighting skills. I'll open it up to everybody. What other skills did you develop? Non-technical, call them soft skills, power skills, whatever you want. When you look, yes, man.
Yeah, I think that I just make sure that I'm really firm about it with you all. Because I know when I went to NKU, there was like this imposter syndrome that I felt. And then there was also that I just made my college decision. And it's like, what about those other choices? I just wanted to be really clear with everyone that like you can go to NKU and do whatever you want. Like whatever you set your mind to, you can go. I work with people that went to Ivy League schools. I went to school with people who went to Ivy League schools, and I was more prepared than them. I went into grad school and I was prepared for that point too. Because I think the opportunity that NKU presents is the choice, is the opportunity to do what you want to do. There are a lot of there, whether you're working with other students or you're working with professors. I think the things have evolved, but the things like this Hale Research Lab is probably the most right place to do that. You can come here and compete with whoever you want. It's just a matter of sitting down and figuring out career decisions to get from point A to point B. You can work backwards from whatever your goal is to and can figure out what the space in between is.
Anybody else? Yes, Ara.
So when it comes to confidence, I learned a lot being a fellow, especially through exposure. One story that I have in mind is, I'm bad with dates, but I think it was in 2021 that I went to the Federal Reserve Bank in Chicago, trip funded by the Fellows Program. I thank the Fellows Program for that. They had in Chicago a conference about what can you do with an economics degree if you want to get into PhD programs. Nerve-wracking for me to be from NKU in front of all those people who went to Harvard, Stanford, and be in the space and say, hi, my name is Aro. I'm also interested into a PhD program. The Fellows Program helped me a lot with being able to state what you want, but also presenting what you're interested in with confidence. I'm interested in this subject. This is why it matters. It helped me a lot.
Speaking about going to conferences, it's a big part of the development process. What conference do you remember and what did you learn from going to that conference?
Oh God, I want to say I went to one. can't remember any others. We went to Berea for an economics conference, similar to the New York one in the sense that we presented research there. I'm also bad with dates. I don't remember what year this was.
2023.
Yes, October. Wow, that's good memory. Yes. So we presented there at Berea, and actually it's interesting that you called me out for this question because I am really not a big fan of camps. I hate staying overnight places. It's a big pet peeve for me. I don't want to do it. It's uncomfortable. I hate that. Going to Berea with this group of people, it was great. Like, what really helped me is that the group of people we went with, I have so much appreciation, adoration, respect for. So it helped me be comfortable getting outside of my comfort zone. But that trip was especially important for me because now we took that extra element. We're in a different place. We're in a different college. We're in a hotel room. And now I'm uncomfortable and I have to go present this research. But thankfully I had this group of people around me that supported me, that I could lean on, that I really appreciated. They knew me well. They knew the right things to say. They knew when I needed to hear something that I didn't want to hear. And it was very impactful for me, kind of going back to this confidence thing. It was scary getting up there and talking in front of people, but at the end of the day, it's not always about the end result. I know that, some people, it's like, that's all you're chasing, but we did it. That helps build your confidence. You went out there and you did it. And I was proud of what I presented. I was proud of what I did. And that's a big confidence builder, right? Stop looking outside of yourself for that gratification, for someone to tell you that you did a good job. Chase that end result that you know that you're going to be proud of. Don't let yourself down. Don't worry about letting other people down. Worry about letting yourself down. Do what you need to do to make sure that your standards are met, your expectations of yourself are met. And, I was still looking for that external validation at that point, and that helped me because it was never about that. And leaving that room, having done that presentation, telling my story from my research was very personal. It was about home ownership, and I talked about my dad. And I learned more about him really through my research. It was, again, very personal for me. And I left feeling more confident about what I had presented, the work that I did. And kind of going back to this, I hadn't answered the previous question, but about building your confidence. Confidence comes and goes. I came into NKU very confident. Middle of my degree, I lost all confidence in myself and my abilities. End of my degree, I was back to being confident again. You start a new position, confidence is gone. You're there for a year, 2 years, you build your confidence, you start a new position, confidence is gone. What this program taught me was how to build your confidence again. It's always going to ebb and flow, but you have to learn how to trust yourself, how to go out there and figure things out for yourself, which helps you build that confidence. So really learning, that's a skill set. Building your confidence is a skill set. And I learned a lot about that in this program.
You mentioned the trip to Berea and the people you were with. One thing that we don't talk about is the importance of that bond between the other fellows. Did you think that trip connected you better with your fellow mates?
Yeah, I mean, you're all sitting in that room sweating. You're so stressed. I can picture us standing in the back of this presentation room, and we have the picture to prove it, and it's horrible lighting, but really great memories. And gosh, I mean, I really feel like at that point we'd already built up this bond. Yeah. We had a very special group, and I really do really appreciate all of those people. Some of you in this room. It makes me emotional. It makes me want to cry. I miss it a lot. It was a very, very good semester, but we really had built up that before we went, and so it was kind of just actually bittersweet. It was sort of an ending. It was coming to an end, but it was an opportunity to spend more time with them before we left the program.
Grace, everybody was in the audience when you won the Best Paper Award. How did that feel to share that moment with your colleagues?
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of in the same boat as Becca, where once we got, obviously it was nerve-wracking to present in front of judges, and you're presenting on difficult research topics. That's not necessarily the easiest thing to explain to an audience, but I think at the point where we had all presented and like she said, we've kind of bonded over that trip, had a little Cracker Barrel dinner. At the point where I actually won the paper, I didn't really care too much. I don't want that to sound or come off wrong, but like the winning the paper didn't matter too much as me in that moment because I was just reflecting on, you know, the community aspect that I got out of it was really more important to me than winning a title. But yeah, it was really all of our wins because I would just thought back to the summer, how many sessions we had where we would just sit in there, say, I'm stuck. And we would help each other kind of get through that, learn how to ask thoughtful questions to get where we needed to be. So it was really just a reflection of like, this is the work of the whole team. So it really was like a team award, and it's definitely a community effort that you have to be successful at research. So really grateful for our little group at that time because it was great.
Matt, your group went to New York. You have a group going to New York right now. What advice would you give them about their time in New York for the conference?
Yeah, so when we went, presented, could align panels, and he was great. He was awesome, really like a very intellectual person. So he was the sole person to present from our group. I just highlight him and the because there's 6 of you, and so it's really awesome to see the growth that between when we initially went back in 2019, April 2019 dates, and when we went, we just kind of went with this. We just had a social approach to it. We went and attended the conference. We got to hang out with some of the other economics professors that were presenting there. We went to different sessions. We looked through the program and saw stuff that we thought was interesting to us, whether it be related to like household finance, or it was like there was some cool like political stuff there. Because there were like some interdisciplinary work that I recall being presented there. I remember seeing was applied and decided to go to GW at that point. And so I saw a GW professor present just to kind of get a glimpse into what that looked like. And then on top of all of that, we had a dinner that we went to some of the other college students that were attending and presenting. That was really fun. And we talked about like how do you show yourself or how do you build confidence. Talking with them about what their academic experience was like, and realizing how it was very similar, but also how NKU stands out. That at least it was like NKU economics did this when I was here. We had 2 econometrics classes. Not every school does that, so you get two semesters, a full year of that exposure is really great. And so that was beneficial. And we also saw the city. We went to Central Park, went to the museums off of Central Park. We just went and saw a lot of the town. It was a lot of fun. So I really encourage you guys to engage in like the full breadth of opportunity. It's there, step outside of your comfort zone, use it to just see the town, use everything that it has to offer.
You've moved us into the advice stage. So if you could go back and do it all over again, or if you give them advice on how to maximize this opportunity, what would it be? And I'll start with you.
The number one advice that comes to mind is I wish I read more. So by reading more books, reading more papers, because this is how you get a sense of what people are working on if you're reading research papers. If you're reading books, it gives you a good idea of how to take one idea and explain it in 200 pages. So it gives you a good example of how to construct an argument or arguments around an idea. If it comes to research papers, I would have spent more time reading from the top 5 journals in economics. There's the Quarterly Journal of Economics, the Journal of Political Economy, Econometrica, Journal of Economic Perspectives, just to have a sense of where the science as a whole is going at the moment. Reading is the number one thing I would do.
Grace, what would you do differently, or what do you recommend they do now?
Yeah, I'd say for me, I would have leaned into that community element of it more. And I just mentioned like that after I won the award, like that was my overall takeaway, just how much I had come to appreciate the community we had built. Because at the time when I started the program, I think your group they were kind of already in the program, and then I joined for the research program, and I already had another internship at the same time I was doing that. So during the summers, I would really show up for our session, like our mandatory sessions. I would do what I needed to do, and then I would go work on it alone a lot. And that became kind of isolating in a way. And then I was like, why am I not? I should be, you're all staying longer. I should stay longer and, just have conversations after our sessions and work with them more. So I started to do that like about halfway through, I think. And then it really is helpful because it's just a group where everyone knows what you're going through and the frustrations you hit when there's hurdles. And it's just so helpful to have, a community where you can ask questions or ask, I'm stuck here, what should I do next? And then it also teaches you, kind of tying it back to like how it helps for corporate life. I feel like my ability to ask questions is so much stronger just from being in this group, like thoughtful, next level questions. I just feel like that's a skill that I wouldn't have currently unless I really did lean into that community aspect more and be very involved when we were, discussing research and our stages and where we're at and asking those thoughtful questions. So I'd say community.
Knowing how to ask thoughtful questions, super important. Becca, what's your advice?
So take more risks to make more decisions. Simply. Just more reps. Yeah. I mean, find your weakness, practice it. Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, we just had our annual summit at work, and the CEO, one of the biggest things he said was, we need people who can make good decisions quickly. And I was sitting there thinking, should have done more of that in college. So that'll be what I'm focusing on over the next year. But I could have been doing that in this program where there was an opportunity for me to make mistakes in a safe space. So for you all that are currently in this program, I seriously make decisions that might be bad ones. Try it out. Like, see how that feels. Get used to that feeling. You're going to have to do it in your job someday. You don't want your paid position that you could lose to be the first time that you make a decision like that.
Brooklyn?
It's funny that we were talking about reps because that's what keeps coming to my mind as everyone's sharing is just the amount of confidence that's built when you go rep after rep. And that's what you can do here is you can build up those reps. The other thing I will highlight that's coming to mind is maybe a hard truth, but if you don't put yourself out there for these opportunities, someone else will take that seat. Someone else will do it. Someone else will be in the room. So if you don't choose to make yourself available and say, I want to do that, someone else is going to. And that's something that I've seen with students as well, like being an adjunct here. There's this, I always see it like this wavering of like, maybe I don't fit in that program. Maybe I shouldn't do it. I don't really know. I'm kind of interested, but I don't know if like, do I have time for it? What about this other job I was going to do? And it's interesting because I did that. It took a while for even anyone to convince me. And I had to be convinced to do the fellows program at the time. And I look back and just laugh because I'm like, if that person even knew that she would go through this whole experience and be where she is today, it's just funny that I had to be convinced. But I see that in my students a lot of, hey, what's this Econ games thing? I don't really know what that is. I don't really know if I want to do that. That seems intimidating. But I will tell you like this hard truth, and I tell my students as well, like if you don't want to do it or if you're not going to take the leap to do it, someone else is going to do it. So be in that room. Like you have an opportunity here in a safe space to try out so many new things. Like I wish I could go back and be in these seats and be able to just try everything again with no like, I'm going to say consequences, but no like reason to, if I don't like it, I could say no and I could move on to something else. Like, I don't think when you're in college, you understand how rare that is. And then once you get out of college, it's, that's less rare. Not saying it can't happen, or I guess it's more rare, but yeah.
The way I would summarize it is when I'm talking to my students and there's an opportunity that's presented to them, they'll try to find the 99 reasons why they shouldn't do it and totally ignore the one main reason why they should do it, right? So Matt has a line that he said in the past, and I actually quoted in class yesterday. Decisions are made by the people in the room. Be in the room and make that decision. Matt, what's your advice?
Yeah, so one of the things I feel like I was really encouraged to do while I was at NKU, and I'm curious if there's still the case, but it was like, get involved. I think that's great. I think you all should get involved. And I would encourage you to like take risk and figure out quickly what there is to get involved in and get involved. involved into it, but don't feel guilty for pulling back. And then whatever you decide to stick with, like go for it. And do not be shy about being bold into whatever you decide to try and then what you decide to stick with. Because the people you're meeting right now, the relationships you're building from that, the experiences you're gathering will all relate to your experience 10 years down the line, 15 years down the line. The job that I have now, one of the first people I called about it when someone said, "Hey, you should apply for this," was someone who met while I was at NKU, who worked in the administrative side. He was the person who had my job before I had it right now. And to that point about decisions are made by people who show up. Like, what do you want to do? Like, you know what I used to do for fun when I was in your seat? I used to like read about state and local government. And my brother,
He did.
yeah, and I loved that's what I did. And I also really loved baseball stats. There is no reason you can't get paid to do what you like doing. And so reach out to people who do that thing. So like that's what I'm saying, like be bold, be ruthless with figuring out the breadth of opportunities that are available to you. And then be ruthless about what you decide to commit to, and then be bold how you commit to that. Because like when I was at NKU, I just feel like I did a lot of different stuff. I feel like I'm grateful for what I did. I really wouldn't go back and change anything, frankly. I wish I did like better in school, I had a better GPA and all that fun stuff. But I wouldn't change a thing about it. Change where I went to school, wouldn't change people I met. Really transformative NKU was for experience.
If I could give you just a little bit of a summary of the individuals that you're seeing, in a common characteristic that they share is they're all extremely passionate and they're all extremely curious. You put those two things together, you're unstoppable. And I started off this conversation by saying how they have shaped my career and my success. Everything that you're seeing at the Hale College of Business that I am leading and working has started or has been influenced by these individuals over here. So the reason I tell you that is because you have an impact on the shape of the future of the Hale College of Business and NKU. You're not just a student in a seat. You have influence more than you actually believe. What it requires is for you to be passionate, curious, and get your community involved and have a vision and build it. We're all together. So before we go today, I want to leave some time for you all to ask questions. Anybody have questions? Jonathan? Okay.
So doing research, your boss might also have a boss that you report to wants to go through this thing, but when you do your research, say this thing can't happen, or this could happen, but not the way you think. I guess the question: how do you deliver to your boss not so great news? Whatever thing you want to happen,
So let me repeat that for the people that did not hear it. Jonathan asked if your boss has an amazing idea that actually does not work. Through your research, you found out that it's not going to work. How do you communicate that? How do you have that difficult conversation? Yes, Steve.
I feel like this is like 90% of my job. So this like speaks to me right now. The thing I try to lead with is I go back and I double check and I triple check that I have the right information. I have all the information, one, because as soon as you tell someone, that's actually what I uncovered is not going to work for you, they will be like, well, why? What did you look at? What data did you pull? Who did you talk to? Where did you get that information? Make sure that I'm able to answer those questions. And then the other thing that's really important here is I always try to lead with, hey, that might not work exactly how you're envisioning it, but here's some other options that I think would work. So that is like 90% of my job is trying to go gather data. And depending on what the data says, I do have to sometimes deliver maybe bad news to people that really wanted something to work out, but our data is maybe showing it differently. And I don't say this can't happen. I say, here's what the data shows. Let's talk about what we might be able to do instead. And then try to get feedback from them. It's not a hard no. It's a let's have a conversation. Let's make a decision together. As soon as you communicate it that way and you include people in your decision making and in in the journey of going and finding an answer for them, I think people tend to really appreciate that, and they appreciate the honesty as well. If your boss is mad at you at that point, I'm just really sorry. I hope that's not. But I feel like a lot of my role is almost like I'm a mini like PR person. I have to communicate effectively, and that, going back to research, that foundation of communication started with my research here. Sometimes you have a hypothesis and you want it to work out so well and you think it's really going to happen, and then you look at your R squared and you look at your regression and it's not what you predicted. And how do you communicate that to people, and how do you connect that to the real world? So that's where that started for me, but I'm now doing that pretty much on a daily basis.
Yes, Sammy.
Sorry.
So I have a question. We heard a lot of good things today from you guys, and thank you so much for that. But I want to know if there is a thing or two that you would say, I wish we had this at the fellowship or research lab. It would have helped us more in this or that situation afterwards. So how can we improve for the current?
So I've always had this idea of having other professors from other universities, and I don't know how doable this is, but having other professors from other universities present what they're working on, it would be a good exposure to what is done in other departments. So that would be cool.
Anybody else?
I would say the fact that you have so many professors in this room that are curious about this and want to be a part of the program is extremely impactful. It's very important to get multiple different perspectives. I oftentimes align with Dr. A's perspective, and so I didn't feel like I needed to go elsewhere and get a different perspective. So I was like, I really like this one. Like, why would I go look for something else that might be different, right? But it's great that there are professors that are self-selecting into this to offer that other perspective. If you as a student, you don't feel like you need to go find a different one, right? I think it's very important to have that, shake your foundation a little bit, have somebody tell you something that maybe you disagree with, and then hear them out. And you don't want to have to go, you don't know what you need as a student, and it's a lot to go ask a professor to come do this for you, come be a part of this. It feels very intimidating. You're afraid that they're going to tell you that they have other things to do, that they don't have the time for you. And it's intimidating to ask that of someone. So I do really appreciate the professors in this room that are taking the time to be here for these students. It's very helpful. And just like Aro said, especially professors from other schools, that's also a great idea. Very interesting to get that other information. And also to kind of show, to your all's points, that you don't have to be going to some big school to have great professors and great ideas and to get that experience. If you have all these different professors from different, I don't know, like accounting, economics, supply chain, that can show you all these different perspectives and show you that they care, I think that matters a lot. And it shows you that it doesn't really matter what school you go to. It's more about the effort that you put into the program that you chose.
Yes, ma'am.
Somehow add to that, this is just an interesting offer for everyone here. Something that was really helpful to me when I was at GW was their career services office. I'm not completely familiar with like NKU's career services office. I know my brother who's an NKU alum. He often partakes in mock interviews with students, helps out with resumes. And my offer to you all is, to the extent that I can be helpful with that, includes my network. Please let me know. I've helped out with plenty of people I haven't even met. They're saving the purpose for grad school, their CV, their resume, and everything, and interview skills and all of that. So please feel free to come up to me after this. That was something that GW offered while I was there and continues to offer, where like I was a few months into a job I transitioned to a couple of years ago, and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. And I met with someone from the career services office for free just to game plan through some things. And I'm happy to be. I think NKU does that, but I want to say that it's important to engage with you a lot of that base.
I will echo that. One of the things about the fellows program, Jonathan, when he was preparing the marketing for this, he's like, what do we call people that graduated from the fellows program? They're fellows. Once a fellow, always a fellow. That is a network for you. So one of the reasons that, and there's so many more of them. So one thing that I could do better is probably give you the connections, or we should have a list of all the people that have gone through the fellows program because they share your same experiences and they will know what you have overcome and what skills you have developed. And this way you can build a connection. Thank you for that recommendation. Anybody? Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kel Smith. I am an academic advisor in our College of Informatics, so I don't have too much overlap with our College of Business students, but I still have a lot of students in our College of Informatics who are interested in research opportunities. I never did one in my undergrad. I'm not currently doing one as part of my graduate program, so I'm not really too in tune to how to talk to them about it. So in general, I'd like to hear about how you first heard of research opportunities, how you decided your research topics, how you connected with professors, just in general, how you got started with getting engaged in student research.
I can go first. Okay, I can go first. So I first got engaged with research because I, through my advisor, had heard of a class called Eco 309. It wasn't 309 at the time. I think it was like 394.
It was an experimental class.
Yes, it was brand new. I had an advisor say, you might be really interested in it. It's taught by Dr. Abdul Abrani. And I had never met Dr. A before, but I'd heard great things. So I said, I'll take the class. I'll see what it's about. And this was also during COVID time. So it was online. So I said, I'll try it out. We'll see what happens. There was only 5 of us in that class online. And at the time, I really enjoyed my time through that class. And as I got into the class, I was looking at internships as well. I was like, I need a summer internship. I think I've talked to so many students. That's always a stressful point around this time of year, trying to figure out what do I do in the summer? Everyone's getting an internship and I need one. So I reached out to different professors, Dr. A being one of them, and said, I need to get an internship. I'm interviewing a few places, but I don't really know. And it took 3 or 4 times of Dr. A saying, hey, we have this research program. You could be a research fellow. It's at the time, he's like, it's a paid position. We'll figure it out. And it took a few times for me to be open to that idea. So that's how I originally heard of research. At the time, too, Dr. A was working on a lot of financial literacy research. So I got pretty interested in that. He kind of pitched the idea to me. So for me, it was that faculty connection that got me in the door. And then from there, he kind of helped me lay out what I was passionate about under this umbrella of economics research, and specifically household economics. And then it kind of just followed the research steps from there. But that's how I got into it.
I will add context to that statement. Brooklyn was extremely resistant to the idea of research. It required me to persuade her. And that's where the role of faculties is really important, right? I saw an opportunity and a potential in her that she did not see. And the current fellows are like, you guys got paid? Because they're not paid now. But anyways, the other thing is she took on that opportunity and she worked with me on summer on other projects and always found a way to add value. Her best paper award that she won after she got done with it, and this goes back to what you all said about doing more, I asked her, I was like, this could stop here, or we could work together and extend it and work on a joint paper. And we have a co-authored paper that, as of this morning, has 13 citations, right? Which is a huge deal for somebody as an undergraduate student. Anybody else? How did you get involved?
Sure. Yeah, I'll say for me, when I think of the research umbrella, I don't think about just writing the paper in the fellows program. I think about, the fellows program, the Econ games, storytelling with data. So there's just a few key experiences in the economics research umbrella where I feel like all of those skills kind of are transferable. If you're in that storytelling with data class, you're going to be successful at the Econ games, but then you can also learn how to leverage those skills for writing a paper. So I feel like it was honestly just most helpful. When I first met Dr. A, I knew of him and really enjoyed his classes, but I'd always heard kind of the fellows name advertised. So I'd say if you're looking to start something similar in the informatics, give it a brand name and then use whatever channels you have, I guess, to kind of spread the word about that. Because eventually enough times hearing oh, fellows, I decided, okay, all of these dots are connecting now. This is something that I maybe need to pursue. So
And I gave a glimpse to Dr. Kirsting over here because I have a policy. If you want to start a program or do something, name it and talk about it often. And it creates a bit of a FOMO. People want to belong to the fellows program. Matt, do you remember how you got involved?
Yeah, so I mean, this is why I just went into his office and was like, I want to work with you. Like, I sat right there in the Econ class in this room. I just walked in there and I was like, I like economics, and I just wanted to do something with it. And so I said, I just want to work. I just want to do something. And that was really all there was to it.
And his first assignment, I gave him a data set and I said, go clean the data set. He worked on it for 2 months. And then I said, okay, maybe I could work with this guy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know what I was doing either.
Yeah. And that was a fun part of it. It was like working together, like learning how to figure it out.
Dr. Kirsting?
I think this question's really easy. Can you guys just share what you researched about and how you decided on your research question, what data set you used?
Yeah. Yeah, I can just I can move this off. So I worked with the National Financial Capability Study, which is a data set that's put out every 2 years by the Financial Industry National Regulatory Authority. If there's any friends that like working at Fidelity, it's the organization that issues all the series certifications for investing. There's a financial behaviors and financial literacy component to it. So we work with that data set. Eventually evolved into a paper that I wrote while I was here that studied the impacts of state mandates on financial literacy. So Kentucky, for example, Ohio, and other states has a financial literacy requirement in order to graduate high school. So I wanted to see what was the impact of that program. So we used some fun methodology, difference at difference, experimentation design. So that's what I did.
I also use the National Financial Capability Study. There's one question in 1 year of the National Financial Capability Study that asks about financial anxiety. And at the time, there's not a lot of research about financial anxiety. It's hard to define. It kind of toes the line of something that's psychological, but there's also financial behavior in it as well. So I wanted to know, are there certain groups of people or demographics of people that experience heightened financial anxiety, that are more financially anxious or worried about money? And I did find at the time that women and those who were in college or had some college in their past tend to be more financially anxious, which was interesting because at the time I was both of those. And so I'm like, okay, this is great. But it was a great experience. So that's what I researched. Mm-hmm.
For me, it was about whether foreign-born citizens are more likely to be self-employed, so to become entrepreneurs than native-born. And I used the American Community Survey.
How big was your data set? Do you remember?
Around 15 million observations.
It's a lot of observation. I'm going to kind of bring it back into how I ended up in my topic really quickly. Whenever I first decided that I wanted to do research, I was very uncommitted to any topic at all. Dr. A kind of put a deadline on it. It was like, we need to pick something. Like, you have to get started. We got to narrow this down. I said, everything sounds interesting and nothing sounds more interesting than one particular thing that you're throwing at me. They're all equal. You know, I could kind of get behind any of them. And I think eventually Dr. A said, home ownership, figure something out.
You can't decide, I will decide.
Yeah, which lucky for me, that worked out really well. But I ended up kind of throwing my own spin on this, and I did the probability of owning a home based off of your marital status, which kind of ties into the story about my dad and my parents and their marital status and home ownership, which is still something that I think about today with their situations. So very much impacting my every day, the way that I think about things. I actually don't remember which data set that I used. Was it the ACS?
That year it was the ACS.
The ACS. Yeah. So same with RO. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I also was very indecisive on a topic when I first started, but what I landed on was the backward bending labor supply curve, which was kind of a theory that existed out there. So if you think of wages on the x-axis and then labor on the y-axis, you imagine that as wages go up, you're going to want to work more and more if you're following traditional supply and demand. But this theory was essentially that at a point, that curve kind of bends backwards and you opt to work fewer hours. It's called the income effect, where you're opting to work fewer hours in exchange for more leisure, which kind of goes against the traditional supply and demand. So I use the American Time Use Survey, I believe, for wage data, and essentially wanted to like support or refute that theory that already existed out there, essentially. So that's what I looked into. And I think I landed on that one because ever since COVID, I feel like hybrid work and work from home has really been a topic, and people have been prioritizing more of that, leisure time, work from home time, whatever you want to call it, over, continuing to work like a regular 40-hour work week. So I think that's what initially sparked my interest. But
Kudos to Grace really quickly. I just want to say, it's been how long since you presented on this?
so I did a refresher before I came here.
Sorry,
I'm glad you did. That was-
I did.
Yeah, no, seriously, that was the hardest topic I think out of all of ours to explain. The fact that you just summed that up, and I was understanding everything.
I was at dinner
Phenomenal.
with my boyfriend trying to like verbalize it, and I was like, I better go back and look at that graph, just so I've got it down.
It paid off.
We have time for one last question.
I'll make it a comment instead of a question. And
Sure.
I think it's an important thing to realize. It is amazing to hear these 5 stories and the journeys. I've been here, Dr. A and I started the same year. And so I've been here for all of these students and worked closely with some. And it's easy as a student in the audience to attribute that they have been so successful in the outcomes that there weren't struggles or challenges in the interim. And so I want you to realize as students that the outcomes are amazing. But growing that community and feeling free to reach out and saying, hey, I'm really struggling, whether that's walking into a Dr. A's office or whoever your person is, right? And so finding that faculty member, when you walk into a classroom, that's your person, right? That matches your personality, that listens to you, because you will hit bumps in the road. Becca was I remember a Dr. A and I convincing Becca to stay, right? There was a talk about, I'm not going to be here anymore. Like I am moving and your passion loss. And she stayed, right? And seeing that story, I just got goosebumps. But she had to have those people. And so as faculty, it's harder for us to come find you than it is for you to come find us. And so if you are sitting somewhere feeling alone, or you see other students that are like, man, this isn't working for me. Part of this community's job is to also share that message that we have to build it and you have to build it. And these 5 built it. And so I love the question from earlier, how do you get involved? And you guys have taken that step, but it's also now you have the ability and kind of the responsibility to share that this is available. These places exist for community building here. And so if you're struggling or know someone that is, this is what we can provide. We need to get that message out because the journey's not linear, and making sure we realize that. I don't think anybody's is. So just wanted to share that as I heard the stories.
No, I appreciate that. And I think that's a great way to end this conversation for now. The panelists, some of them are able to hang out for a little bit to answer questions. I want to make sure that we don't go too far past our 12:30 deadline. During the welcome phase over here, I was having a conversation that I think is really important for us to tie in here today. And the idea is that education is about relationships. And these relationships are not per semester, per class. These are lifelong relationships. Each of these individuals, as I said, has impacted my professional and my personal life. When I did a sabbatical in Dublin, Matt Fry flew out to Dublin and we saw a Lumineer concert out there, right? I've attended weddings. I've been on their journey with them. And that's what we love to do as faculty members. That is what the Hale College of Business is all about. Allow us to invest in you and you invest back into us. And we continue to grow this and the impact gets bigger and bigger every single time. Matt Fry was a student that walked in my office that said, I want to do more. And we have 5 that has succeeded. And this year we have 20 others that are participating. I can't wait when I retire in 20 years to see what this looks like. But it's not possible without every single one of you showing up every Friday at 11 o'clock and giving back. Each one of you is part of this impact. And I want to say thank you. With that said, have a great one, hang around, and enjoy your time. Thank you so much.